Good morning, America. President Trump doubles down on his threats to North Korea.
He does something in Guam, it will be an event the likes of which nobody's seen before.
Suggesting that fire and fury comment was just a start.
Was it too tough? Maybe it wasn't tough enough.
Defense Secretary Mattis warns war would be catastrophic. The U.S. territory of Guam on heightened alert, facing the risk that a missile could hit with just 14 minutes warning. Our team spread across the region with live coverage this morning.
And breaking overnight, emergency landing. 3 flight crew members rushed to the hospital sick from fumes on board.
They get a noxious odor in the aircraft. Appears to be a smoky type smell.
The plane forced to divert. An investigation underway this morning.
A death-defying moment caught on camera. This car plummeting from a parking garage, falling 7 stories, landing on another car, bystanders rushing to help. How the driver incredibly made it out alive.
And those enormous Mega Millions and Powerball jackpots still up for grabs and growing. Now worth nearly $750 million combined. The luckiest spots in America and the numbers that have the best odds of winning.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
Good morning, America. Happy Friday. Paula, I cannot believe you just promised those people the numbers that are giving them the best chance of winning.
Everybody, you heard it here first. We're going to give you all the numbers, including the Powerball number. So we're going to have to split it, 10 million ways.
But I'm curious, if we had the numbers, why would we give them away?
We're just going to give you some hit. We're going to give you
numbers up there are big. There's some big
We'll give you
jackpots right
3
now.
numbers, maybe. Then you got to figure everything else out for yourself.
Okay.
All right. Are you going to buy one? You?
Oh, yeah, I'm in.
He's already in. I'm getting closer.
Okay,
Closer, George. What did it take? $750 million.
Close. George is almost there. Everybody, welcome to GMA on this Friday. But first, we want to get to the latest on those rising tensions with North Korea. President Trump, as you heard, doubling down on his warning to Kim Jong-un and his regime, saying maybe he wasn't tough enough.
Well, you know, meanwhile, 167,000 Americans are in Guam, and they're being told what to do in the event of an attack.
After that warning from Kim Jong-un, we have team coverage across the globe, from Guam to South Korea to Washington. Our chief global affairs anchor, Martha Raddatz, starts us off from Seoul, just 50 miles from the North Korean border. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, George. There is uncertainty and tension here on the Korean Peninsula. People just don't know what's going to happen next, and President Trump is doing nothing to tamp down the fear. This morning, tensions escalating. President Trump with that newest dire warning for North Korean leader Kim Jong-un after his threat against Guam.
Let's see what he does with Guam. He does something in Guam, it will be an event the likes of which nobody's seen before. What will happen in North Korea? He will see. It's not a dare. It's a statement. Has nothing to do with dare. That's a statement.
The president firing back after North Korea, in a statement Tuesday, called the president senile and his comments on the deepening crisis nonsense.
Well, I don't think they mean that, and I think it's the first time they've heard it like they heard it. And frankly, the people that were questioning that statement, was it too tough? Maybe it wasn't tough enough. They've been doing this to our country for a long time, for many years. And it's about time that somebody stuck up for the people of this country and for the people of other countries.
And not saying whether a preemptive strike is being considered.
We don't talk about that. I never do.
But overnight, Defense Secretary James Mattis stressing the efforts to reach a peaceful resolution.
You can see the American effort is diplomatically led. It has diplomatic traction. It is gaining diplomatic results. The tragedy of war is well enough known. It would be catastrophic.
President Trump also leaving the door open for negotiations.
Sure. We'll always consider negotiations.
The president's latest comments coming after North Korea said it would launch 4 missiles at waters near Guam by mid-August. And despite those threats from North Korea to lob missiles at Guam, officials tell ABC News there is no evidence that any missile launch is imminent. George?
And not on any more of a war footing right now. Okay, Martha, thanks very much.
Let's talk a little bit more about Guam. As we said, the U.S. territory of Guam in the crosshairs this morning, 167,000 Americans there, along with 2 major military bases. And ABC's Jim Avila is on the ground with more on how they're responding. Good morning to you, Jim.
Good morning, Paula. A mixed message from the Guam government this morning, telling residents to enjoy the weekend while reminding them to listen for island-wide sirens in the event of a missile attack. This morning, all eyes turned toward this small island in the middle of the Pacific, as its neighbor, North Korea, 4 hours away by plane, but just 14 minutes by ICBM, threatens to launch missiles towards Guam's shores, a specific threat with a timetable set for as early as next week. The U.S. territory of Guam, home to more than 160,000 American citizens, U.S. naval and air bases, and more than 7,000 U.S. troops. Overnight, the island's leaders urging its citizens to remain calm, but posting these drawings on the government website of how to seal off doors and windows in case of attack.
We don't want to put fear on the people as well.
Here on the island, a mix of apathy and controlled panic, some seemingly unaffected.
I think one of the safest places to be is wherever they're aiming. Their tests don't seem to be too successful.
Others blaming President Trump for upping the rhetoric.
He's rich, good. He's rich. He's got all the money. He's protected. What about us? What about those that don't have any protection to help them?
Little but strategic, Guam is 3,800 miles west of Honolulu and just 2,100 miles southeast of Pyongyang, the closest American land to North Korea and perhaps its most vulnerable. But for now, most here attempt to act as though life goes on. The locals still filling the largest Kmart in the world, where families seem more concerned about school supplies than military hardware falling from the sky. Guam is home to American Tomahawk missile launching submarines, ground missile batteries designed to shoot down incoming rockets, and the B-1 bomber is based here, which at top speeds can reach North Korea in 2.5 hours. Paula?
Yeah, and residents taking the necessary precautions. Jim, thanks for your reporting from Guam this morning. And we want to bring in our military analyst, retired Colonel Steve Ganyard in Washington for us this morning. Steve, good morning to you.
Good morning, Paula.
And first and foremost, the U.S. military believes that a North Korean missile could reach the waters of Guam within 14 minutes. So what are our options to defuse?
Well, the first option to defuse is diplomacy. But if that fails, Paula, the U.S. military actually has two systems that could knock down those incoming missiles. The first would be a U.S. Navy system, the very sophisticated Aegis missile system, which has a new missile that can actually reach up and knock down any incoming missiles from North Korea at any point in its trajectory. On the ground in Guam, we have the THAAD missile system, which is there to sort of be the last line of defense. It's sort of a goalie to prevent any kind of incoming missiles from actually reaching Guam. So THAAD is there. It's been tested, but it's never been tested against four missiles. And this is why they have said that they're going to shoot 4 of these missiles at Guam.
Yeah, certainly a test for THAAD. Now, Jim, in his piece, just referenced the many concerns that people have in Guam right now. But the U.S. military, Steve, has not raised the threat level in the Pacific. So how seriously is the U.S. taking this threat right now?
Well, they're taking it very seriously. What they're signaling is that they think they have the military assets to take care of or knock down any incoming North Korean missile. So the next few weeks, remember that the North Koreans said that they would submit this plan for approval in mid-August. So we have a little bit of time, we think, because they tend to do what they say they're going to do. A little bit of time for diplomacy to prevent what could be a very serious, aggressive act by North Korea.
All right, Steve Ganyard, thanks for your insight and analysis. And George, you know, the governor there in Guam is telling people to go out and live their lives, but understandably difficult right now.
It is tough right now. And North Korea, just one of the many topics Trump took on in those freewheeling press appearances yesterday. He also continued his public battle with Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell, saying it's a disgrace that Obamacare is still in place and challenging McConnell to get to work and get it done or else. A lighter tone with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Instead of criticizing Putin for retaliating against U.S. diplomats in Russia, the president offered sarcastic thanks, saying Putin's move will cut the payroll and save a lot of money. And the president promised to declare the opioid crisis a national emergency that would increase emergency funding to address this crisis. Whole lot there. Our senior White House correspondent Cecilia Vega on hand for all of it. Good morning, Cecilia.
Hi, George. Good morning to you. This was really something. We haven't seen the president like this since February, his last press conference. This wasn't a full press conference. A limited number of White House press corps was there, but the president took question after question despite his aides calling for a wrap. He kept going. On vacation at his Bedminster Golf Club in his most extensive exchange with reporters in months.
With that, if you have any questions, yes.
President Trump taking questions and raising eyebrows when he thanked Russia's Vladimir Putin for expelling more than 700 embassy workers in retaliation for new sanctions.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm very thankful that he let go of a large number of people because now we have a smaller payroll. There's no real reason for them to go back.
As for whether he plans to fire special counsel Robert Mueller, he says he hasn't given it any thought.
I've been reading about it from you people. You say, oh, I'm going to dismiss him. No, I'm not dismissing anybody.
And about that FBI raid at his former campaign chairman's home, President Trump says he was surprised.
I thought it was a very, very strong signal or whatever. I've always known him to be a good man. I thought it was a very, they do that very seldom. So I was surprised to see it.
The president also not backing down on his very public criticism of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
I'm very disappointed in Mitch.
Earlier this week, McConnell fired off a critique of his own.
Our new president had, of course, not been in this line of work before, and I think had excessive expectations.
But on the steps of his clubhouse, the president kept it going, hinting that McConnell might consider stepping down.
If he doesn't get repeal and replace done, and if he doesn't get taxes done, meaning cuts and reform, and if he doesn't get a very easy one to get done, infrastructure, then you can ask me that question.
So let's go back to that Russia probe. We have learned that congressional investigators now want to question the president's longtime personal secretary, Rona Graff. She's worked at Trump Tower for nearly 30 years. She moved into that role at the White House. She is the primary point of contact for anyone looking to get in touch with the president. And George, her name was on that email chain about that Trump Tower meeting between Don Jr., others, and that Russian lawyer.
Yeah, she has been the gatekeeper for a long time. Cecilia, thanks very much. Let's talk about this now with our chief political analyst, Matthew Dadden. Obviously, Matt, the president had a lot to get off his chest yesterday, but it was kind of remarkable to see him tougher on Mitch McConnell, the Senate Republican leader, than on Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, watching that press conference yesterday, I was struck, reminded of two things. One, it's like a Dear Diary. Dear Diary, Mitch bad, Putin good. Or it was like the Queen in Snow White, right? And when she's mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all, and then go off on this long riff. There is no rational explanation for what Donald Trump is doing with Mitch McConnell or what he said about Vladimir Putin, basically saying better things about Vladimir Putin than he did about Mitch McConnell. But we've seen this before. There was no rational explanation for him bringing up...
He needs McConnell to get his agenda
through.
Well,
that's the problem. I mean, even if Mitch McConnell is at fault in the course of this, if he wants to get any of this done, I don't actually understand, is Donald Trump's on the golf course, probably at the turn getting a cheeseburger as he goes to the second 9, telling Mitch McConnell he needs to get back to work. It makes no rational sense.
He was having security meetings yesterday with his whole team there as well. He does appear to resist being handled, either by the new chief of staff, General Kelly, or his own press secretary, who kept sending messages saying, just one more question. He kept going.
Well, it's as if it's been written about. He's been caged up, and then somebody let him off, and he wasn't going to go. He didn't want to go back, and he was freewheeling. I mean, it was giving him credit. He took a lot of questions on a lot of different topics, on many different things. But I don't think it settled anybody down. It settled the world down. And I will say one thing: he was honest at one thing. The world has never seen something like this. He's right about that.
One major piece of policy yesterday, now declaring a national emergency on the opioid crisis.
Yeah, and obviously many Americans. I had a sister a few years ago who died from opioid addiction, who left 3 young children behind. It's a scourge of the country right now. But fundamentally, they have to decide, is it a funding problem where they're going to give more money to Medicaid to solve this problem with treatment? Or are they going to make more law enforcement, which I don't think will fundamentally solve the problem? And there seems to be a real debate on that.
See you Sunday on This Week. Also on Sunday, I'll be sitting down for an exclusive interview with Anthony Scaramucci. This is his first interview after that whirlwind 10 days as White House Communications Director. Michael, back to you.
All right. Thank you, George. And you know what? Now that emergency landing overnight, a JetBlue flight diverted to Buffalo after 3 crew members got sick on board. ABC's Eva Pilgrim has the story.
Overnight, a flight diverted and 3 crew members taken to hospitals.
We've got an odor reported by the cabin crew in the aft galley.
The plane, which was headed from Boston to San Diego, landing in Buffalo after reports of fumes and dizziness.
We got a noxious odor in the aircraft. Appears to be a smoky type smell.
A passenger on board telling a local newspaper that he smelled gasoline, describing it as overpowering. Medical teams meeting the plane. You can see an ambulance in this photo from Twitter. The 3 crew members transported and treated at a local hospital. It's not all that rare. Just last month, 3 American Airlines employees were taken to the hospital after reporting a possible odor in the cabin. So What could those fumes be? On nearly every jet, the air you breathe, the air used to pressurize the cabin, is directed from the engines. It's called bleed air. In the engine's oil is an additive containing a toxin, tricresyl phosphate, TCP. If there's an oil leak, it could mean fumes in the cabin.
It's a safety issue that the airline should be addressing, and the regulators should be making the airlines address it, and they're not.
And earlier Thursday, another JetBlue flight forced to land in Fort Lauderdale after flight attendants reported headache symptoms. Paula.
All right, thanks so much, Eva. And now to some news that's going to start your, where am I? I'm over here, start your Friday right. Those double lottery jackpots are still up for grabs. George mentioned earlier, he ratted me out. I'm going to tell you all the winning numbers, so everybody listen up. They're worth even more this morning. If you win both the Mega Millions tonight and Powerball tomorrow, that's nearly $750 million combined. And ABC's Victor Oquendo is in Florida at a store that sold the largest prize in lottery history. Victor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Paul, and we've got some lucky tickets right here. We're standing in front of a lucky store as well. This Publix supermarket in Melbourne Beach sold one of 3 winning tickets in that historic Powerball jackpot last year of $1.5 billion. So as they say, you can't win if you don't play.
Here's the winning ticket right there, fellas.
Tonight's Mega Millions jackpot now up to $382 million. Add that to Saturday's $356 million Powerball prize, and that's more than $735 million up for grabs. With all that dough on the line, players everywhere are looking for ways to get an edge on the competition.
We've had a lot of winners in Fond du Lac.
The Miracle Mile in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin claims to be the luckiest place in the world with more than 13 Powerball winners since 1993.
You have to play to win, and unless you don't play, you won't win.
Brothers-in-law Rakesh and Ashok, who sold a $50 million winning Powerball ticket at their Pennsylvania store in 2012, have some advice for potential players.
Let the machine pick your numbers. If it's meant for you, it's meant for you.
The two of them also winners, scoring a $100,000 prize for selling the big winning ticket. Photographer Edie Bressler travels the country snapping store owners who sold those giant jackpot winning tickets, learning just how much a store can benefit after a big win.
A store that sells a winning ticket is considered lucky. Those stores that are selling big volumes of tickets oftentimes sell more than one winning $1 million ticket.
So the question now is, what are the luckiest numbers? Well, for the Mega Millions, 2, 31, and 39, and for Powerball, 26, 16, and 41. Don't worry, guys. I got tickets for all of you, too. I'll hang on to them.
Don't make promises you can't keep.
Yes.
Victor will keep 90% of the winnings as well.
Paula and I are actually writing down
actually wrote them
numbers.
down.
31 is one of my favorite numbers, by the way. But you know what? We got a storm of people who are running the lottery, but Rob's going to cover more storms that are bringing hail and damage to Colorado and Arizona. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Michael. Check out this hail just tearing apart this tree across Fort Collins, Colorado. Also some damage across Tucson, Arizona. More on the severe weather later in the program. Weekend Getaways now brought to you by the Hitman's Bodyguard, rated R.
The summer's biggest duo are feeling the love.
I will bust a cap. Have you ever said please?
Please!
Why are we always yelling?
Ryan Reynolds raves. Sam Jackson is obnoxious in every way.
Can't someone just taser him?
Samuel L. Jackson calls Ryan Reynolds extraordinarily annoying.
Not a fan. How about we never speak of this again?
And Selma Hayek proclaims Sam and Ryan need to stop flirting and get a room already.
What?
Really? The Hitman's Bodyguard. Rated R. August 18th.
Well, finally Friday, getting out the door this morning, a little warmer than it's been the past few mornings, also a little bit more humid. We'll have maybe a spotty midday shower possible, but storms likely after 7 p.m. So stay weather alert for anything that you're doing later on tonight. Tomorrow, keep the umbrella handy. Cloudy in the morning, some midday showers, but dry for your Saturday night. 85. Sunday, the nicer of the 2 weekend days. Partly cloudy, a touch less humid, and high temperatures close to average in the mid-80s.
Coming up, an ABC News exclusive, the first interview with a former FBI agent and his daughter just convicted of murder. They say they had no choice.
And Taylor Swift's dramatic showdown in court facing the radio DJ she says sexually assaulted her. Not holding back. We're right back.
Acronyms are fun. LOL, laugh out loud, BTW, by the way, and of course, WABC GMA. We'll buy your car.